welcome to the Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem podcast. I'm your host, Silver, and our other host is...
Chaotic.
Today we are joined by another special guest, and that is...
Erin from Myth Monsters podcast. Hello.
Erin, would you like to kind of explain a little about yourself for our audience real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the host of Myth Monsters podcast over here in lovely old Blighty. And yeah, I cover monsters every week, very much the same as these two, just on my lonesome, bless me. But yeah, very much covering monsters every week from different cultures. And rocking on 3 years of doing this, I guess.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's been a journey, babes. It's been a journey, but we're getting there. Thank you.
Silver's the hard worker here. I'm just the comedic relief. I will literally only make jokes, so expect nothing serious from me.
Excellent.
I do the research, Chaotic's the personality.
No.
Well, we are covering the Spriggans this week. A lot of the time they are also, I believe, mispronounced as Spriggans. And have you heard of these, Chaotic?
I've heard of the ones in Skyrim, and I also pronounce them Spriggans like an ass. So we're here.
You know what? It's spelt that way. It's just the way it is, isn't it?
I purely blame the American English language. We don't know how to say anything. So
hon, don't worry. Like that's the thing. The Spriggans thing comes from Cornish English. There's like maybe 2 people in the UK who will know that it's Spriggan. And I think one of them is me, as per 2 hours ago.
I love that.
Yeah. So would you like to explain Spriggans, or would you like me to?
I don't mind, whichever you would like to do, darling.
I'm gonna put my plant in the window. I'll be back. Give me 2 seconds.
It's snowing outside.
No, not outside. Just hang on.
Your VTube just like broke her neck trying to move.
Okay, I'm back.
You're back.
I got a fancy succulent air hanging plant yesterday, and it's been in the box all night, and I was like, I should probably put that near the window.
Oh, as in like it's one of those suspended-y ones from the sea. Ooh, fancy.
It's like a glass orb, and it's got like 3 succulents in it, and I got like this little ceramic tree frog that's on this. It's really cute.
Oh, sounds it.
Thank you.
I can't keep anything alive. I've got a peace lily that I have to keep away from the cats.
That's why I choose succulents and cactus. You can water them like once every 2 weeks. Can't kill it too bad, I guess.
I've got so many plastic plants because they're the only ways I can keep. They look fine, but they're like I can't keep them alive. And also,
I'm the same way.
Fungus gnats, bane of everyone's life. No, thank you. I'm not putting up with it. So plastic plants it is.
do Spriggans deal with fungus gnats?
I don't think so.
They look like they deal with.
They look like leafy boys. Leafy boys, and they've got a whole load of what are they called? Like aphids.
Yeah.
And they're like, instead of having like nits or like head lice, they're like, oh, I'm infested again. What have you got this time? Well, fungus gnats, mate.
Fungus gnats. I'm dying. I can't.
Someone's got to spray me with fairy washing up liquid.
Well, like so many of these, like the Elder Scroll ones have like the green stuff that comes off them. It's not actually leaves. It's just fungus gnats flying around the vicinity. Nobody wants to approach.
Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Sorry, I've disrupted us again. Please continue, Silver.
We should definitely keep that bit in.
Yep. Well, and like you said, they're from Cornish folklore over in the UK, which I believe is the southern point of the United Kingdom.
It is. It's the southernest and the pointiest part. It's where everyone goes surfing. It's a very nice holiday destination. I can't say I've ever been, but it is very nice down there, and they have very good weather. But it's literally, if you look at the UK, it's that little tiny foot bit. It's like the toe is where Cornwall is. And I think kind of their biggest city is Penzance, which is quite nice. And it sounds fancy.
It's kind of like the Florida of UK.
Yeah.
Not the Florida.
I'm not sure if the Cornish would be massively happy with that comparison.
Probably not.
Listen, the Floridians are probably honored. They're like, wow.
Exactly. They'd be like, whoa, I'm from like one of the fancy places in the UK, and the Cornish are like, what the hell? And
they really just put us in the apocalypse of the United States for what?
They also all talk like farmers, which is lovely. But it's I don't think they'd fit in Florida very much.
You would be surprised. You would be surprised.
The Spriggans are usually...
The what? What'd you say?
The Spriggans...
The what are? I was waiting for myself to do it. No, I was like, I'm going to be the first motherfucker to do this today, and I wasn't.
The Spriggans are usually described as grotesque, ugly, wizened old men.
Wow.
Aww.
Usually very short and small with large feet, and sometimes childlike heads I've seen. Or
why
just
are we describing hobbits? I don't understand what just happened. We just flipped the script.
You call Bilbo ugly.
Yes, you can add me. Abso-fucking-lutely. They're all like the puppies that are so fucking ugly they're adorable. That's what a hobbit is to me. Like, I would smush their face for sure, but they're ugly for sure.
I seen in a place that their dress usually has some stone bits on them.
I reckon they're mossy boys as well, you know.
Oh yeah.
In terms of like, they'd be like, oh, bit of moss, I'll decorate myself. Either that, or as we said earlier, it kind of becomes part of their body, and then it's just like pubes. And you'd be like, oh, what a nice little skirt you have, Mr. Spriggan. And he's like, mate,
I've been growing these pubes for 10 years. You don't insult it as a skirt.
Oh dear.
If you're looking for a Spriggan, you can usually find them around burrows, old ruins, and I'm not 100% with this.
Do it. No, I know exactly what you're gonna
say. Cairns?
Cairns.
Cans?
Cairns, yeah. It's a Celtic word. It just kind of means like grave space. Yeah, cairns. Like okay. Cairn stones. If you've ever played Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, they're in those a lot. And it's like an Irish, Scottish based, all that malarkey. No one knows what it means. Not anymore. Don't at me, Scottish and Irish people. Don't do it.
I got my notes here that those are human-made piles or stacks of rocks.
Yes.
They can also usually be found guarding treasures. So if you find the Spriggan, that treasure is possibly nearby.
Am I going to have to battle the Spriggan?
No, because there's, well, maybe. Depends if you know the trick.
All right, hit me.
Okay, let's see. Well, if you come up against a Spriggan, what would you think the trick would be to win or get them to go
Silver,
away?
you don't want to know my answer to these. I don't know why you ask me every time.
Because it's entertaining.
It's either something completely violent or something sexual. There's no in between. I'm either blowing him up with a bazooka or petting his moss pubes. Like, there's no in between.
I hate it's not that extreme.
Yeah,
Can I just say please? Can I just say please? Can I have the treasure? Can I call him pretty?
No.
Well, everybody else thinks he's ugly. If I tell him he's pretty, I can have the treasure.
You'd be like, whoa, those moss pubes, hon. They are so in fashion right now. And I can totally match the curtains with their drapes.
Correct.
Amazing. And he'd be like, all right. And you can have my treasure. It's underneath my moss
pubes. You gotta get it under here.
Oh, but they're so small. That's the problem. They're so small. You'd be like, what is this? Like a tiny pebble? Is this a pebble? No, that's my ball sack. That is my scrotum.
Well, the answer that is you just got to turn your clothes inside out.
So hang on. Can I approach with my clothes already inside out?
I believe so.
I don't have to like unclothe and reclothe in front of him.
That sounds like a kink.
Right. I'm just checking where we're at with this man.
Yeah, it's safe to say you could approach with your clothes on inside out rather than doing it in front.
Okay, well, so then if I'm doing that, if I know I'm going Spriggan hunting for treasure, I can just look weird and go out into the wilderness and do this. I don't have to prepare to undress myself and redress myself.
Yeah, I guess the only problem is if you accidentally come into contact, then you're going to have to be like, babe, I'll come back.
I'll be right back.
Either that or you go intentionally Spriggan hunting and you've put your clothes on backwards, then you don't find one. You're like, I have walked around this wooded
for
land
hours with my tags out.
My label itching my throat. This is awful.
Yeah. The Spriggans also really don't have the best personality, so it's best to probably approach them with your clothes reversed before you get to them.
Are they going to be mean to me?
Yeah.
They're not allowed to be ugly and mean.
I think they've got small man syndrome.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, from the sound of their pebbles underneath their moss, I'm assuming.
Sorry, just a big snort there.
No, you're fine. Usually it's me, so now it's just having up there. It's fine.
Oh dear.
So they're mean and ugly.
It's toxic.
Which is kind of common folklore for creatures, it seems. But they have their unpleasant disposition towards people, humans. They like to do mischief against people, like raising whirlwinds to terrify people, making storms and blighting crops. They also sometimes like to steal children.
Yay, lovely English fae trope.
Uh-huh.
Baby stealing.
And then one more of the powers they have is they can make themselves giant.
That pebble ain't a pebble no more, is it?
Oh my god. Looking at river stones.
Is that a boulder? That's a nice boulder.
That's a nice boulder.
Copyright infringement right there.
Having the ability to grow giant is also based on them potentially being the spirits or the ghosts of giants that were in the Cornish area. They just be small, and then to guard their treasure, they get big.
It makes sense. It's a good defense mechanism.
Yes.
How big is big?
I've seen a couple different things.
Mm-hmm.
They like to use the word inflate. So on the notes I read, they said they inflated to giant size and about 100 times the strength.
I'm growing up. I'm coming.
Gotta turn around and blow yourself up.
Just get your little whatever the like corks are for inflatable toys and like. I'll be really threatening in like 5 minutes. Just bear with.
Like the SpongeBob muscle arms.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm just hoping not as pink.
Oh, yeah. And I also seen in a couple places, since they dislike humans so much, they are often seen as bodyguards and stuff for other types of fey beings.
Bodyguards. So they're the bouncers.
Yep. And they sometimes dish out the punishments for other fey beings in their behalf.
Yeah, the changeling one is quite common with that as well, in the sense of they'll nick their kids on behalf of this other being, which, to be fair, in those parts are those giants, but also, I'm sorry, innuendos abound. But there is a creature called a knocker, which when I was telling my dad about earlier, he was like, well, I do like knockers. So that euphemism is been and gone. And then bookers, which are like mermen type monsters from that same folklore. But yeah, they would 100% act on behalf and be like, I'm going to nick your kid for this monster, give said child to that monster, give their child back to you. And of course, that comes abound with a whole load of disability prejudice within English folklore, which is horrendous. But the whole changeling things is very common, but also very bad.
Yeah. And I also seen that the Spriggans were commonly associated with Piskies.
Yes.
And will-o'-the-wisps a bit, with leading travelers astray, but they do it on purpose.
No. What do you mean?
Little pesks.
I didn't get a chance to look, but are Piskies similar to pixies?
They are pixies, yeah. It's just the old English version of the word, yeah. I think it sounds better, but it's why in, God forbid, of course, Harry Potter, they're like, Cornish pixies. That is the Cornish pisky. It's just the more anglicised, friendly version for our delicate ears nowadays. Apparently we can't get over piskies. I mean, now I say it, I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of get it. It just sounds like they've been down the pub and had far too many.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of all the notes I had for their origin. Did you have anything else to add, Erin?
I've got some British context in terms of history as to why they kind of came about, if you want to chat about that bit.
Yeah, we can do that.
So yeah, Cornish mythology is quite interesting because it is intrinsically pre-Christian Britain in terms of its inspiration. So it's that Anglo-Saxon kind of times within around the 1600 AD sort of mark, when we had a horrendous problem with Vikings. England wasn't England at this point either. It was the separate, countries of, say, Mercia and East Anglia, Northumbria. So you've got massive disconnect throughout the whole of the UK, which wasn't the UK, of course, at the time. And we had a lot of influence coming in from the Scandinavians in the north. So a lot of our northern mythology and folklore is very Norse-based, whereas in the south, we tend to see that there's more of an Anglo-Saxon, more of an English and Celtic folklore throughout. And because Penzance and Cornwall is so far down, and it's super isolated. The only way in is one way. You can get in that one road, and that's about it. There's no other places except by sea. And even then, you're looking at coming across from the US and maybe somewhere like Greenland, Iceland, because it is so far down. And we knew that wasn't going to happen in the 600s. But yeah, so they got a lot of their inspiration from these Anglo-Saxon myths that are about, and they are all based around Celtic mythology, which is obviously our most ancient pagan history over here. But a lot of that comes from the coastal influence. It also comes from pirates and caves down in that way. So if you ever go to Cornwall, it's very much there's like pirates' coves and like smugglers' coves and stuff like that, where people would come in round the coast and they'd stash things in the caves where people just wouldn't find them. And because of that, there's a lot of mythology around secret spirits and stuff like that. So we see a lot of mining and a lot of cave-based mythology down south, but we also see it massively up north, where there is a really heavy mining influence, because that's where all of our mines were before the dreaded Thatcher came along and shut them all down. Not that I condone mining to this day, but just saying. But yeah, alongside all of those, the monsters I spoke about earlier, but there's a lot of influence within those kind of systems that keep that mythology alive today. And because it is so isolated down there, it is something that still prevails. So a lot of people are quite suspicious down that way in terms of, or superstitious, should I say.
Yeah.
And that I love it. I think it's so interesting. And to get that down south now is a little bit more niche, actually. But yeah, that's the fun bit.
Do you think the Spriggans and the pirates are kind of associated?
You did it. You did it again.
Part two.
I took Chaotic's little
Thank you.
in it.
Do you think the Spriggans and the pirates are related. If a pirate was guarding their own treasure in a pirate's cove, someone would walk upon them. Might be where this lore came from.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like relating it not only to pirates but to mining, it's that like you're protecting a precious metal that you're mining out. And people were really protective of mines. So of course we've got the whole dwarven history as well, which comes from the Norse mythos, but was very much put into English mythos, which is why it's kind of in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. It's that precious substance that you kind of hoard to yourself. So it makes sense that there's a creature that would protect a hoard, kind of like a dragon, within those kind of cave-based systems like mines and stuff like that. And especially with Pirates' Coves, 100%. I would guard those little hoards as well, because it would be spices, it would be fabric, stuff like that they'd probably have plundered from the Spanish or the Portuguese, maybe even the French. But this time, like, a lot of those had their own ships and they were out pillaging and all of this. But of course, we're only an hour or so by boat to Spain. So, and suddenly, it's actually not that difficult a ride. So it makes sense. I would hoard it too.
Well, with that, would you guys like to move on to media?
Yeah, let's do it.
Some of the places I know of where I've seen the Spriggans, mainly pronounced as Spriggans in the media.
Yeah.
There's a anime called Spriggan. It's from the early 90s, and then they remade it recently, I believe. Then we have World of Warcraft has them in it.
They do indeed. They're actually a nightmare in that part.
World of Warcraft
of the game.
has everything.
It does. It really does. That and like Smite, I find have everything in.
Mm-hmm. Truly.
But WoW, they are a nightmare in WoW, and they are pronounced Spriggans in WoW as well. But they are so hard in that one area in Shadowlands. Impossible.
Do they look like old men in WoW?
They look exactly like the like artwork and stuff done of them from the olden days. They look exactly the same. It's so impressive. And I don't know if you guys have seen the statue that's near Highgate Station.
I have.
And it's like stunningly gorgeous of a Spriggan. Oh.
We need a counter of how many times Kaotic has not fucked up versus how many times
you've not fucked up once.
I'm gonna be honest though, my brain takes 5 seconds to go Spriggan because my mouth wants to go Spriggan so bad that I'm like, slow down.
It's such an easy word, Spriggan, whereas Spriggan doesn't sound right. It feels like you're splitting the word in half.
They made it weird purposely. They really looked at that word and they were like, that's probably pronounced Spriggan, and then they were like, no, we're not doing that though.
They revised it, just made it easier.
Yeah. Oh dear. But the statue of the Spriggan that is set up in Highgate in London is exactly what they look like in WoW. That like leafy kind of texture to them, the big oversized head, the cute little oversized feet crawling out of a bush between Highgate and Finsbury Park. But it used to be the old Crouch End station before they shut it down. But now if you walk between the two, it crawls out of the bush at you. It is quite scary. I've seen it in real life, and it is quite a scary statue, I must say.
Is that the one that's on the wall?
Yeah, and it's like crawling out of a bush.
Yeah.
It's really frightening to look at. Like if you catch it by accident, like in your view as you walk past, you're like, ah!
I looked up because I was wondering what it looked like. So I went to Google Maps. I was like, they might have this on here, and they do have it on Google Maps.
Yeah.
You can find it. And surprisingly enough, all the graffiti artists left it alone. They paint around him.
We have quite a weird relationship with graffiti in this country, I've found, at least. When it comes to, like, cultural history bits, we're quite good at not defacing them. I'm genuinely quite impressed. The one exception is, of course, the Winston Churchill statue, which gets defaced all the time, as he should. And then there's another one, I think it's Nelson, I think it's Nelson, and it's a statue of him on a horse in Scotland, in Glasgow, and it's famous because someone always puts a traffic cone on its head. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but honestly,
I think I've seen pictures of this. I'm gonna be honest.
It's on like all of the magnets and stuff you can buy of Glasgow. It's this statue and it's a gorgeous statue, but I've never seen the actual face. I've only ever seen it with a traffic cone. It's maddening, but that's what we are very much like. Yeah, screw you, the system. but we won't damage it.
Won't damage it. That's actually great though, because then you're not in like, defacing trouble. You're just putting a cone on it.
You're just putting a cone on it. And there are 2 universities in Glasgow, so it happens all the time. But even like, it's funny, I used to live in Denmark for a little bit, and it was right next to the Little Mermaid statue. And I didn't know this, but it's been beheaded about 8 times.
Oh.
Like people go and saw her head off.
Oh.
It's bad. And I was
That's
like,
a little crazy.
Yeah, so she's on like her 8th head. So it's not the real Little Mermaid anymore.
On her 8th head.
She's on her 8th head. Don't quote me on the 8th. I'll have to check. It's been a lot. It's been defaced a lot. And it's so gorgeous and it is tiny. But yeah, apparently it's super, super common. And I thought the Danes were pretty chill, but apparently they really don't like mermaids. It's fair.
They're trying to mix 2 creatures, the Little Mermaid and the Dullahan.
The headless fish.
Yeah. Some more areas that I've seen the Spriggan in is Beyblade series, one of the new ones. They're one of the main characters has in my day, they used to call them Bit Beasts. I'm not sure if they're still Bit Beast, right? But the spirit that's inside the Beyblade is a Spriggan.
Oh, fancy.
Inside of the Beyblade? What the heck?
Yeah, have you not watched Beyblade Chaotic?
Silver, I know you already know the answer to that.
It's like you spin them out, right? And then that's when the battle begins.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they hit each other and they get all crazy looking.
Yeah, I've seen them in person, but I've never watched the anime, and obviously, no spirits are coming out of the plastic.
I thought we were just ripping really cool toys out and battling. I didn't realize that there was
a mythological
things to it. I thought we were just getting lit.
And going, hey, when you win. But there's absolutely no science as to why you'd win. It's pure chance.
No, but man, they used to have championships of that.
Yeah. I know. It's mental.
Battles of chance, essentially.
I got mine back in the back there.
Yes! So pop out the Beyblades. Come on.
Might take a minute there and a couple totes. But yeah, Beyblade in the anime, the actual top has a beast called a spirit in it. Some of them do, and they're called Bit Beasts, so they inhabit the blades. So when you actually in the arena, there's a chance for the Bit Beast to come out and deal extra damage or whatnot and do cool tricks.
Oh, do they talk to the other one? They're like, "Oh, good to see
Sometimes.
you again, Dave."
Yeah,
like it's been a while.
Been a hot minute.
How the kids? Oh, she left you, did she? Oh, I'm so sorry, mate.
Oh,
gotta win. Poof.
Oh, sorry. Do you mind if I win this one? I know it's a game of chance.
Do you mind if we just say mine took yours out?
My owner's going through a bit of a rough patch. His cat's just died. It would mean a lot if I could win this.
Essentially, so what we're getting at here is Beyblades was essentially set up for children to have their first betting experience.
Yeah.
You know how many people traded? They were like, if you beat my Beyblade, you can have it. And these kids were just like, yep, betting out here, bartering our lives away over some Beyblades.
I guess that's the same with like marbles, right? Like old marbles was like that, and you'd give someone like your prize marble.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you'd be able to tell which one your prized marble is. I've always thought they all look the same, but
yeah, when you get the packs, they all look the same. But there was those kids that had like those like astrological looking ones that were so cool, and I would probably have a favorite marble if I had cool marbles.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Good point.
I'd usually just out the basic marbles from the dollar store, but I also liked, what was it? Jacks.
Oh,
where you throw the ball and you have to pick up all the jacks. Or
Yeah.
Yeah. My aunt used to show me up when I was like 7. She'd be like, watch. Whoosh. And I'd be like, well, that's not fair. Your hand's bigger. So
legitimately, I've just sat here for the last 5 seconds and been like, could I do any better than my childhood self at picking up jacks?
Maybe because of the size of our hands, but I really think that game's just out to murder everyone's feelings. I don't think it's there to win.
Yeah, and also if you're dropping them on like school tarmac, right, that ain't comfortable. If you're like scrambling to grab those, I'm not ripping my hands open for a game. I'm not doing it. Like, you can have my ball or whatever you win from winning. I'm not interested. I'd rather not go home with plasters. Sorry, Band-Aids.
Thank you. I needed that simplification. I didn't know what the fuck was going on here. I started to panic.
You were like, Erin, you've broken your fingers from this. Oh dear. Yeah, I know Chaotic, you said Elder Scrolls earlier.
Yes. Yep, Elder Scrolls was one.
I have to admit, I've never played it.
And they're really pretty. They're like really, really pretty tree boys.
Oh, like Dryad-y style. Lovely.
I'd walk up and be like, you're a friend. And they'd be like, no, probably not.
If they look like Dryads, I'd be like, I would go up to them. I feel like a weird... They always look really attractive in games. I'm just saying it, and I'm outing myself now. Dryads and Valkyries always look quite sexy.
Yeah,
I would go up to them and be like, "All right, put on the suave."
I'd be the asshole that's like, "I am Groot," and they'd be like, "No, now you're getting fucking jack slapped."
How dare you belittle me to a marvelized tree?
Yeah, I was one of the ones that when I was first playing Skyrim, just you're cool looking. Walked right up to him and died. I was like, oh.
Died. Yeah.
I'll be honest, I've never played Skyrim.
I've played enough of it to know it's called Skyrim.
And that's all you need to know. Wrap up. Thank you very much. It's just never tickled my fancy.
I tried it when I was like a teen, and I was like, this looks super cool and fantasy, and then Dragon Age came out, and I was like, bye.
Yeah, exactly.
Toodaloo.
Exactly. Then there's in Final Fantasy XIV, which I believe is 14.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's Spriggans in there, but they look completely different than any others.
Oh, yeah. What do they look like in that one? Yeah.
From the picture I've seen of them, they're usually carrying like a chunk of ore or a gem, and they're black furred, and they're like fuzzy.
Oh.
Interesting.
I think the one had rabbit ears, if I remember right.
So they're not humanoid at all?
No.
Wild.
Which is weird for a Final Fantasy game to change.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Probably not.
I've never played any of those either. Can't comment.
They make everything cute.
Oh, well, that's good.
It's Final Fantasy it's like and like all of my friends who are listening to this right now, I'm not coming at Final Fantasy, so just calm the fuck down. My inbox better not be full. I'm just saying they just make things very cute and tend to make them fluffy. Like even their big bunny ladies, you know what I'm talking about? Their big bunny lady species. They got a big bunny lady species. I can't remember the name of it right now, but she is super fuzzy in all the right places. Final Fantasy does that for like all the time.
Thick with 2 C's, but a rabbit.
Yeah. The last place I seen where their Spriggans were said to be in, but I've never read the books, was Lord of the Rings.
It doesn't surprise me, but I also haven't read the books. Apparently they are a slog.
I don't know.
I wasn't sure if they were mixing them with tree people or Trents. I think.
Yeah, that's I'm trying to think of. I'm unsure.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I couldn't find a second source to confirm they were in Lord of the Rings. That was just one of those one source off things I've seen.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's all, you know, all of that, the Lord of the Rings creatures and stuff are all based on English and Norse mythology, so it makes plausible sense. I can't guarantee it myself, but it makes sense. Even if they're not called Spriggans in it, it might just be that they're like, oh, look at these wood spirits or something, and they'd look like Sprigans, and we'd be like, okay, Tolkien, I see what you're doing.
Then the last one I have here, which is from one of my favorite animes that I talk about quite a bit here when we talk about folklore from this area, is Ancient Magus Bride.
Oh.
It's heavy in folklore, mythical monsters, and the Fae from English, Welsh, and Scottish. Yes, they have Spriggans in there too, and the Spriggans. I messed up again.
Neither of us caught that. Chaotic. We didn't catch it.
No, we didn't. He got it.
To be honest, the self-aware ones are even funnier because you're like, oh, fuck.
Pause the whole thing.
The Spriggans in there are actually small men with like rocky armor, and they're guards to Oberon and Tatiana.
Oh, Titania, the fairy queen.
Yes,
from Midsummer Night's Dream.
The Spriggans actually are their guards, and there's a point where the main character ends up kind of being angry, where the Spriggan has to step in, and when he does, he grows to a giant form.
Oh, so it's like demonstration of powers in that as well. That's cool.
Yeah, they kind of explain the Fae and stuff fairly well, I think, in that anime. Any other media you guys want to add in that you can think of?
Skyrim. That's it. That's all I had.
Yeah, I can't think of any others. The WoW one is the only one I've really seen in person, I suppose. And I've murdered them with quite a voracious veracity. They're not nice boys.
You just had to turn your clothes inside out and WoW.
just get naked in front of them and hope that no other players are watching you. Otherwise, they'll be like, "Excuse me, madam, you should be in the inn in Goldshire where everyone does that."
I could see that being like a WoW Easter egg, though. You just unarmor and rearmor, and then you let you walk through all those Spriggans.
That would be a really good idea. Maybe I should try it. Maybe they have done it and no one knows. Because, I mean, if that doesn't work, it's like a level 60 area and you are dead. You are dead.
Well, then, I guess we'll move on to Mayhem.
Woo! Woohoo!
So I kind of explained our Mayhem a little bit with Erin. Chaotic. Would you like to go first as a demonstration?
Sure. Are we starting with the college?
Wherever you want to start.
All right.
There's no order to Mayhem.
You're right. I would say they're like the weird quiet kids that like you don't not like, you know, like I don't know. I mean, I don't want to like, because I was a quiet kid, so I'm trying not to out myself right now. They were the weird like quiet kids that you didn't expect to be sassy, but every time they opened their mouth, it was some sassy bullshit. And you were like, the whole class was like, huh? So like that's where I feel like they fit in the college. They're just the surprising, sassy, possibly a tree standing there child. I feel like their mayhem meter is fairly low as far as active mayhem. I don't feel like they're really looking for it. I feel like it kind of finds them because obviously we're the ones kind of stumbling across them. Like I feel like if nobody ever stepped on their turf, they really wouldn't have anything to be mayhemy about. But when we show up, then it's more of a mayhem situation. And also, as per usual, I'm judging this via Tarrasque and Godzilla. So I'm just saying I don't think they're quite to that level.
Okay.
Don't you okay me? What hit me with your opinions, sir?
Go on, Silver. Go on, tell us.
I think they would be a little bit more mayhemy area, but more of a mayhem area. I think they would probably bring more mayhem in a more concentrated area. They're not like widespread.
I don't feel like they're that chaotic. I feel like this is like me dealing with my child on the daily.
But they hate people, which is also like little children.
I was gonna say my kids also hate people. I don't know what. You know, I feel like this is one of those things where I could flick him in the nose and be like, "Stop doing what you're fucking doing," and he'd be like, "Dang, like you didn't have to do that. to me. You didn't have to do me like that. Okay. So I feel like it'd be manageable. If he turns around and inflates himself, I'm kicking him in his balls because now they're bigger and I can aim.
No more pebbles.
I don't know. I feel like he's a little, because chaotic and mayhem are two different things. I feel like they're a little chaotic. They're a little chaotic neutral, but they're not out to get us. You know what I mean? Like that's not their entire life's existence. They got other shit to do.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Where would you place them? What do you imagine them as?
Me or Erin?
Anyone. I'm sitting here in silence. I feel like I have said the wrong thing or am being judged, and I just want some confirmation out here.
I think that they would be like the kids, and this is more like if I take it to like junior school level, so like the kind of kid age, they are like that Vine that's like that kid who's like, I have the power of God and anime on my side.
I can see that.
I feel like that's their kind of energy, like pretty chill most of the time, unless you irritate them, as you said, Chaotic. Like I think that's that weird juxtaposition. You wouldn't fuck with them, but also they're like puny and a little bit like they're a little bit nerdy and weird. That's where I'd kind of put them. So I agree. I think in terms of mayhem, I think again they're a little bit tricky because I think they're in that in-betweeny stage of like if they're not bothered, they're chill. But if they're like as they go past, they're like eyeing everyone up. But if you decided to get involved, the mayhem goes up. And I feel like they're the kind of people who then wouldn't ever let that grudge go. Like you annoyed them one time and they're going to go above and beyond to just annoy you. Not harm, I don't think, but like actively like irritate you for the rest of that time.
It casually tie your shoes together every so often.
Yeah. If you didn't lock your laptop, they'd write, please lock me in a notepad over and over again. And you'd be like, why?
Possibly drawing dicks on things.
Exactly.
I for sure, I can agree.
They'd wait to 20 years, still your children.
They're petty. So what Silver's getting at is they're ultra petty. I got you. But they're like, no, we're best friends. And then in 20 years, literally steal your firstborn child.
Or like, they'll be the first person. As soon as your child's like, oh, my mum, my dad did this, they'd be like, I can call CPS for you.
Yeah, they'd pretend to be the best friend, and really they're just stealing the child.
Yeah, long game, boys. That's what I'm thinking. They're long game trickery.
I had a kind of different area in college where I'd put them. I'm not sure if you have them in universities over there, but the campus security.
We already have security.
Who is security? They didn't.
I can't remember, but we assigned somebody to security and hall monitors.
Minotaur was hall monitor.
Was it Minotaur?
Yeah, because they couldn't get lost in the halls.
Oh, you're right. I guess in universities, the security officers are the hall monitors.
Yeah.
Because their badges are definitely made of paper. You know what I mean?
These are the rental cops that come in and guard the front gate.
Yeah, we have those.
If any of my rent-a-cop friends are listening, I love you very much.
We'll have like one per campus though. It would be like the one, and it's only really like countryside universities here that have those.
We had, I think, like 20 of them on my campus, and they all had their own cars. They were just the city's police officers that came in.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, and they weren't very good at them because one of them couldn't drive a manual, and they gave him a manual car, and he parked it next to the river.
Oh, no.
And he forgot to put it in gear, and when he got out, the police cruiser went in the river, and I think there was at least 2 of them that crashed him into light poles.
Oh God, ours get golf carts. That's the extent.
To be fair, my college was a technical university for mechanics and like repairmen and cars, and because I was there for agricultural machinery.
I'm surprised they weren't driving around on tractors, mate.
Oh, yeah. Please tell me you've told her about our drive a tractor to school day.
No, I haven't.
Literally, okay? I'm from, I don't know how familiar you are with states, but I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh,
that's like the heart of country, right?
Country music, babe.
Right.
Yep.
Heart of country. Never in my fucking life. I moved here and they were like, we drive our tractors to school on a certain day. And I was like, you do what?
What?
Yep. You do. They literally drive their whole tractors to school. Just show them off. Just bring your tractors to school today. For what? Get your tractors off the road. Why are we doing this?
I have a bigger tractor than you.
Pimp my tractor. I'm done.
You could take up the most parking spaces and...
Oh, God. They wouldn't park them, though, right? They'd have, like, their parent drive them in and then drop them off?
No.
Just drive them in and leave them there the whole day. Till we got... Yeah.
They're broken.
What? That's one of the most American things I've ever heard, and I really enjoy it. Thank you very, very much. And I
thought I was country American, and then I moved here and met Silver and all of them.
To be fair, me and Silver were discussing earlier, my state's geography was horrendous. This entire time I've sat with the US map on my other screen, just in case a US thing comes up, and I'm like, oh, I know where that is.
I know where that is.
Just so I don't sound like I don't know. Yeah. I know east and west sides. That part, it's the north and south where I forget where everything is.
That's
fine. I know Texas is south. That's it. Is the big one.
That's pretty much like 3/4 of the states. So
exactly. That's all I need to know. And I've been to Texas, but I'm like, that's the only one I know.
I love that.
Oh, dear.
To be fair, we do measure things in hours here for distance. We don't measure things in I
get it.
Yeah, we're like 2 hours from this, 2 hours from that. Go an hour and a half down the road, take another hour and a half that way.
The company I used to work for was in Seattle, and I remember one of them being like, oh, I'm just going to Portland this weekend. And I was like, I swear that's in another state. And they were like, yeah, it's in Oregon. And I was like, right. So you're talking about flight time is like 3-4 hours, right? And they're like, no, drive. And I'm like, what? You just drive into other countries. That's cool. But it's not a country, but they act like countries. And it's very strange from a European perspective, where you can literally drive into other countries. Like, I could drive for 2 hours and be in France. Obviously, ferry included. Make that clear.
Never across the water.
Just like car underneath the channel, just
yes.
But yeah, it's wild. US geography is crazy.
It really is. They train us as children from the time we start school to the end, and I still can't tell you where most of the states are. So
I know there's a song that can get you to memorize all the different ones.
Sure is.
But yeah, I couldn't put them on a map. Like, I'd know that, like, the big ones, and then they'd be like that. I don't know where Vermont is.
Somewhere on the East Coast.
I know it's where Bernie Sanders is from. I'm pretty sure.
Where's Bernie Sanders from?
Vermont.
Colorado.
What?
I'm pretty sure.
That's on the other side, isn't it?
I could no.
It's in the middle. Unfortunately, I only know Colorado because of.
Hang on, I'm double checking because what even is? Again, I'm in America. I have no idea what any of this is. Maybe he's just the favorite in Colorado. It's like not telling me anything. It says Colorado's Democratic presidential primary.
I think that's just the votes currently.
No, I mean, he's not in it this year.
No, he went against Trump, I think he went against Trump.
He did.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know enough about American politics.
Oh my God.
I know you have a two-party system, and I know there's Biden right now. That's about it.
That's about what we know, too. Vermont, you were right.
Yes.
You're perfect.
Ha
I think I went Colorado because he's so pro marijuana, and I was like, clearly that's where he's from, because Colorado is the only state that's so pro marijuana. It's not funny.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
they were one of the first ones to legalize that. They've just always had it out. I mean, it's always been a thing they've been trying to legalize there for probably the longest out of all of them.
Fair play. You go Colorado,
right?
Didn't they? Isn't South Park in Colorado, or like it's based in Colorado?
Yes.
I literally know about Colorado. I know two things. I know South Park is based there, and I know Columbine was in Colorado. They're literally the two things, and they're probably not good things to know about a state. They're two things.
Most things people know about the states are not great, so it's
Disneyland's great.
One more thing they have in Colorado is the National Stock Show, where they come in and do a bunch of. It's for like cattle farmers and other type of animal farmers.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about like stocks, as in like I'm stonking. I've bought stonks, and I was like, why Colorado? Why wouldn't that be on Wall Street? And then the other thought was stockings, and so once I'd gone through the stocks part, I was like, tights? They're talking about tights? Is it just a whole bunch of women being like, look at this lovely leg? The denier is 80. How fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's cute. Big cow meat.
Uh-huh. They have it on a mountaintop.
That seems inefficient. You got to get all your cows up there. I hope there are people listening from Colorado. Like, yeah, you go. We love you, Colorado. The three of us, we love you. You go with your weed and your South Park. Maybe not the other one.
Please not the other one.
Please not the other one. We so got off topic, and I really enjoyed that.
It happens a lot, and it's fine. It's
Yep. I can't even remember what we were actually talking about.
We were just in the mayhem section.
Oh yes. What's the other bit in mayhem? I can't remember. College and
General mayhem, and if you release it into the world.
General mayhem. Oh, we kind of covered that, didn't we?
Okay, so this was a question I kind of wanted to ask you, since you're also a mythical monster podcast host.
Oh yeah, go on.
Okay, so what monster have you come across do you wish had more lore to it? And if you could, what lore would you give it?
That was too much at once.
Sorry.
Oh God. Oh, you know what? It would probably be the Hutslang from South Africa. Because it's not there isn't lore, so to say, but it's just like, they live in caves and they're elephants with snake boys attached to them. That one, I'm like, I think there needs to be like an Attack on Titan based weird thing. I also really would want to see a snake try and mate with an elephant, or vice versa. I feel like maybe that's the one. Because they're like these mega elephants as well. They're not like normal elephants. They're mega elephants with these snake trunks. Yeah, I want to know how they came to be.
What do you call them?
Hutslang.
Because we covered
it's
one.
spelt Grootslang.
Okay, that's the one we covered.
Yeah.
That's why I called it too. I was like, this sounds awfully familiar, but
You know what? I only know this because when I was recording it, I worked with someone who was South African. And so I did the Tokoloshi and the Hutslang at the same time. And he was like, so it's pronounced this way. That's the way you need to do it. And I was like, okay. And so in my head, I'm like Grootslang because it's so much easier. But it makes sense with the Dutch influence, I guess, because they'll drop the G as well. So yeah, Hutslang with a lovely phlegmy hoot in there.
All right, yeah, that was the kind of the only question I had on my little sticky notes I have lined up across my monitors. Kaotic, do you have any questions for Erin?
What's your favorite mythical monster?
Kelpies.
Okay.
Flat out. They are my fave. And you know why? It's because when I was a kid, we had the Harry Potter trading game, and it was like a card game, and I absolutely loved it. And they had a Kelpie card that it wasn't particularly good. It didn't have like any special stats or anything. It wasn't particularly high health, high damage, but the art on it was like it was really cool, but it was a little bit scary. And it was like this purple horse with like big chompers. And it stuck with me as a kid. And then when I started to actually get more invested into mythology as I got older, that was the one that just always came to mind. And I love Scotland, and the amount of times I've been in like weird kind of bog areas within the Scottish Highlands and been like, I could totally imagine like seeing a horse in the distance and being like, oh, this is normal, because there are horses everywhere running about there. But this like weird creepy horse that will take you in and drown you into these like susceptively as well really deep bodies of water that don't look it at all but are horrendously dangerous, especially for kids. So it's that I love that monster with just all my heart, with the nostalgia and the actual like been in those places and been like, oh no, I can see why like that exists in mythology. Yeah, most definitely I think it's that one. And don't get me wrong, like I love Gorgons and I love Greek mythology with all my soul. That's what really kicked off my obsession with it. But yeah, the little bit closer to home monster wins that prize for me.
I like that one. That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've practiced.
I always get the Kelpie and the Selkie mixed up in their names because the E sounding.
And they're both Scottish, so it makes sense. And they are, again, it's always that like coastal, water-based, like cautionary tale type monster, I feel. They both kind of come into that same category, I would say. And I love the Scottish mythology alongside, if you look at them with like Norse side by side, there's such a heavy influence. And I think as well, what a lot of Scots and also realistically British citizens, in terms of our history, I don't think there's enough realization or education, firstly, on our folklore, like at all. But I don't think there's enough correlate, like looking at them side by side with the Norse and being like, we have so much in common. And especially with the northern part of England and Scotland, there's such a heavy influence on our society and our culture that comes across from the Danish, the Norwegians and the Swedes. It's so inherently interesting that, yeah, I just don't think people know enough about it, and it makes me very sad.
There is definitely a lot of crossover in there from what I've seen from doing my research and stuff. Just like, hey, this sounds just like this.
Yeah.
They got like 3 different names from 3 different...
Yeah, exactly. It's lovely. And we're so lucky as well in this country to have such a long history and so many different influences throughout our culture and our history. And to be able to be like, we are so inherently European and we've got so much influence from our European neighbours. And actually we got a lot of influence from Spain, who had a lot of influence from the top part of Africa. And you see the swapsies almost. I mean, even talking about the Hootslang, it's that Dutch influence plus the South African influence that come together. And it's that gorgeous mixing of cultures that I think now, especially following Brexit and all that very anti-European stuff over here, it's so interesting to be like, we actually owe a lot of our history and a lot of our culture and society to the rest of Europe. And just because we've left the EU obviously does not mean we have left Europe. We are still a part of it. And there is, at the moment, and you know, we're talking in 2024, there is still such a discourse between the UK and Europe. And it's really, it's sad to see this like amazing mix of cultures come together and fall apart, realistically. And actually a lot of Brits on the Leave side are very anti talking anything about the European influence on us. So it's nice to be able to be like, well, they still had all of this, by the way. We wouldn't be here without them. So yeah, I think folklore and history brings us together. It also tears you apart, but it also brings you together. I'll get off my my postbox now. It angers me though. It angers me. But yeah, it's so important. It's such an important conversation to be had. and not enough people here are willing to have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. There's things that need to be just. And people don't talk about history that much, and folklore especially.
I imagine I imagine as well. It's that same kind of stuff with you guys, and there's the native mythology plus what we would consider kind of American cryptozoology now, in terms of your guys' recent mythology. And I guess there's that discourse as well between, what is truly American, so to say. Is it the native mythology, or is it stuff that we've had since the Pilgrims came over? It's such an interesting discourse that either, as I said, brings people together or it separates them.
A lot of the things with like American cryptozoology, I found is they also have roots in the Native American folklore and lore that's kind of harder and harder to find because they kind of kept it more to themselves. So it's more harder to find the original facts and stuff on there. Just like some of the history that we kind of just recently found out is on the farm I work at, where the farmer lives I work for. About 60 to 100 feet away is a Indian burial mound.
Oh, God.
On his property, yeah. And it turned out that there's at least one child buried there, maybe a chieftain, and then like a family that died in the early times from the yellow fever.
Oh, wow.
But no one knows where exactly the headstones are anymore, because the last reported thing of it was in 1923, and they were made of sandstone and unreadable.
Oh, and it erodes so easily, sandstone as well.
Yeah.
Gosh. So he's moving the whole farm, right?
No.
All right, well, get haunted.
It's just a mountain's covered in trees and everything now, so we don't use it for anything. So it's never been really messed with. Yeah.
It's the spooky bit now. That's what you should be like, oh, I'm going into the spooky bit.
Yeah, I guess we'll wrap up the episode. We usually thank our patrons, which are Mondi, Ruby, Mage, and Nuggies. And then any podcast news, Chaotic? Any
podcast news?
Or any streaming news for you?
No. I am officially done with school, so I'll actually do what I said this time and get you guys your thing by Friday. Because I'm not a garbage human being and I keep my promises. So yeah, I promise. I'm officially done with school. I'm graduated. I did the whole bachelor's program. It's done. I promise to actually write the thing that I'm supposed to write for our Patreons. Not that I'm sure Super Mage and Mondi are reading them, but they are there.
Erin, would you like to plug yourself again? Promote yourself.
Yes, please.
Your book, your podcast?
Oh gosh, the book. Yes, I'm Erin from Myth Monsters podcast. You can find us on all streaming platforms, wherever you get all of your podcasts. And I've just rebuilt the website and it looks beautiful, gotta say, at mythmonsters.co.uk. And my book link is on there, but you can find me on Amazon, and it's To All the People I've Loved Before. It's a poetry book about dating in the modern age as a woman. It's all fun. It's a fun book, I guess. But yeah, check out Myth Monsters, and thank you so much for having me. It has been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Chaotic with the outro.
Thank you for listening to the Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem podcast. Silver and Chaotic take you into the depth of the lore and discuss how these legends could affect modern-day society. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or almost any podcast service easiest to you. Dive into the depths of chaos with us every Wednesday, bar Silver and Chaotic not missing their scheduling, and consider joining the podcast Discord or Twitter following even more insider looks and even some D&D sessions. If you'd like some extra special inside looks or even want to be a guest on the show, consider helping us via Patreon. Your help makes such a big difference to us both. Until next time, Mythics, you never know what kind of mayhem we might get into.